Hello, I'm the official name raider. We finished Kanto and now we're back to review Johto. If you're new, my job is to look through the first page of Google, review the nicknames provided by the internet, and then give my recommendations at the end. Today we're looking at Chikorita, Bayleef, and Meganium. I have never actually decided to go through one by one through Johto, so anything I do from this point forward is probably going to be the first time I've looked up any sort of nickname for any Pokemon. It might just be like one random one, but in general, it's like completely new to me from here on out. Okay, so let's get the worst of it out of the way. Second worst of it out of the way. So Petala, that is incredibly stupid and dumb, and I hate it. Sakura, I've seen that like as a name for like any sort of anime thing, so to me that kind of just looks like any generic anime name opposed to anything that has anything to do with Pokemon or grass type Pokemon in general. So I don't care, that's just a name to me. While also on that subject, same thing could be going for Flora, because that's a real human name, and Blossom. So those kind of follow that thing of like, they're not really good because they're real names. Other words, Aroma's dumb, and then Floret and Florus I don't really care for. In general, everything on here is just either incredibly stupid or it's a real person's name in the world, so not really what we cover here. We will acknowledge Poison Ivy, because I feel like that's going to be the one you're going to see for a lot of grass types, period. The biggest problem I have with this nickname, aside from the fact that in general Poison Ivy is not a good name, is that it's not a poison type, so it's incredibly wasted. You're better off for any grass poison Pokemon. Other words, like, I like it because I like the character from Batman, I just wish she had a better name that, you know, stood out instead of something that's literally the plants, if that makes any sort of sense. Mint, I've seen this before, any sort of generic grass type nickname. I had it written down because I saw it and I didn't hate it, so acknowledging it here. I think we've seen Orchid before, and I didn't really have anything negative to say about it. I don't know, there are some times where I'll see something a second time and I'll have a totally different opinion, it's funny. I don't remember hating it, I don't really have anything negative to say about it. It's there, you could throw it to anyone really. I mean, it works pretty well for a flower-based Pokemon like Meganium. Salad, we've seen this a few times before. I can distinctly remember it for Venusaur. So if you want that for some sort of generic grass type nickname, it's there. Do I think it's great? Not really, but it exists. Oregano, and also while on the subject, I remember watching, I don't know who it was, I stumbled across someone and then like they did a Pokemon Gen 2 game and they named theirs Basil, so I will acknowledge that while we are on the subject of spices and seasonings. The common trend here that I'm noticing is just people naming it after food, so lettuce. We can acknowledge that since we've already done seasonings and salads. There's another one for the list. Jesus Christ. Sage, rosemary. We're just going through spices and foods. I will acknowledge Littlefoot. I don't really have an opinion on it, but just in case that does appeal to someone, I know it's some fictional dinosaur from cartoon thingy. So, there you go. So I remember when we were ending off with the legendary birds, the idea of the Zelda goddesses came to mind, and I liked that. But it's also kind of fun to realize that they technically work with the starters too. So for Roar, you could literally use for any. I think it works best if you want to pick the starters. Not any grass type, but any grass starter. If you have no idea what to name it, I think that'll work. I don't know. Yeah, it just works. That's all there is to it. Fucking spinach! We keep going with food. What is it about this Pokemon that makes everybody hungry? I'd like to know. It's a flower dinosaur thingy, and everyone's like, you know what? I'm feeling pretty hungry, and I want to know the correlation. We acknowledge Orchid, so we'll acknowledge Hibiscus. Do I care about it? Not really, but if it appeals to you, there you go. I don't know if I'd say it's better or not than all the food ones we've stumbled across. So I actually kind of like Shantae. The only problem I have with it is the fact that once it evolves into Meganium, it becomes no longer relevant. Because see, it works for Chikorita and Bayleef because the leaf on its head acts as kind of the same way Shantae does the head whipping motion. And I think that's really, really clever. But again, once it's fully evolved, it becomes kind of obsolete. You can look past that if you want, but yeah, that's basically the only drawback. It took an entire generation, and this guy finally came up with one good nickname. I don't even think that's the same guy. Okay, acknowledging parsley, because, again, you have to go over every single green food and spice period. But also, apparently, I've been here because Lita. That is the one I personally use, and I've seen, like, a couple people just name theirs Rita, and that's kind of where my appeal came from, is just, I like the sound of it. I think it's a nice sounding name, and Lita rhymes with Rita, so that was it. It's a funny coincidence that it also happens to be the name of a female professional wrestler. That wasn't where my mind was at when I picked the name, but that's just it. That's the one I personally use. Again, this is kind of like Shantae, where it's like once it evolves, it becomes irrelevant, but you can look past that. Okay, so that's the bottom. We've clicked on everything. This one had the most I liked, but it was more for future Pokemon. If you click on it, scroll down, there's gonna be one guy who's got like teams based on Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and then miscellaneous stuff, so I took notes on a bunch of that in case you want that ahead of time. Other words, it's mostly just been nothing but generic food names, and that's it, which still arises a lot of confusion for me, but we're gonna end by checking the spreadsheet. And literally nothing of worth at all. Also, because I've gone through all of Kanto and we didn't stumble across the spreadsheet, I am completely confused how I got this, because I'm pretty sure I got it from looking up some sort of Kanto Pokemon, but I guess I'll never know. So I don't really have any huge recommendations, because all we went over was just, is it a green edible thing, and is it a season and spice? And that's been 90% of it. I went over mine being Lita, and then the one I liked best that I stumbled across was Shantae. So that's it. It's very sad, I guess. There's nothing in particular that stands out as a Chikorita-only nickname. It's all just a bunch of generic things you could put to any grass-type Pokemon and it'll fit, so there's that. If you've got your own nicknames, it'll be much, much better if it can apply to something that fits the Chikorita line exclusively, but if not, any sort of generic grass-type name could be added to the pile. So provide your ideas in the comments below, give a thumbs up to those that are good, and we will see you for the next starter Pokemon of Johto.